Hello Reddit Fantasy Football Forum. Here's a video to quickly show you all the free features on the Subvertadown website. I hope you think you can more easily find everything than you did on Reddit, all in one ad-free place. Now a fast overview for you, and if you stay beyond the 2 minutes, I'll give you some extra details about how to interpret and use things. Especially if you're new, here's the articles section. The goal's always been that you can understand my methodology if you're interested. Access it here. Basically, it's heavily guided AI. We never assume a trend is a trend until we extract what's statistically predictive. This section also has accuracy articles, how-to guides, and my analytical studies. So now you can find them more easily than digging through old Reddit posts. Click the logo anytime to find the front page, what contains what most of you want, the top streamers. DST has several extra features to be aware of. Choose whether your league penalizes for yards allowed or not. Hover over the clock icon for a new tool that lets you compare to similar games in the past and how they went. The other up-down icon is a cool new tool explaining why the ranking is so high or so low. It's there for kickers too. It indicates what input information has most affected the ranking. Then you can find expanded information in the weekly view. The graph shows how the fantasy projection changed during the past week. The risk column indicates if there's greater uncertainty for boom-bust potential. Then a couple columns indicating hold potential for just one subsequent week or for rest of season. And then you get some numbers indicating which variables might drive this player's fantasy points this week. A similar chart exists for quarterback. Moving on to the rest of season charts for the flex positions. You should use these instead of just looking at fantasy points allowed data. These are better. The first column is the baseline fantasy production, how many fantasy points on average you can expect from all the team's players to score at this position. The rest of the table indicates weekly deviations from this baseline due to matchup measured in fantasy points. And the final column is an average, indicating the remaining strength of schedule. All columns are sortable. Back to the front page, there is an online DST challenge for fun, where you should try to guess the week's outcomes. Free subscription to the season winner. I aim to convert your votes into Reddit consensus DST rankings, which I hope will add perspective for you. And there's one last thing you can do for DST. If you're wondering whether my rankings accounted for an injury, submit your inquiry and I'll review it. Finally, let's switch to dark mode. Select it here at the bottom of the page. So that's it for the overview of free content, which I hope you on the Reddit forum will enjoy. If you want to keep watching, I'll now explain some details. First, definitely try the site out on smartphone as well. With the website's lean, ad-free design, it becomes as straightforward as using an app. A first tip is that the two DST score settings can have different teams in the top 8. In this example, the Seahawks and 49ers appear in one list, but not the other. Remember, ESPN default does penalize for yards allowed, but you need to check if your league manager altered the league settings. Realize that all projections auto-update, especially as betting lines move. These are frequently refreshed. The projections also update when I make manual changes for new information, such as injuries or weather. On the expanded weekly view, I consider the look-ahead column for next week an important opportunity. Years ago, it was one of my main wishes, to plan in advance so I can make smart use of waivers. The models for components have confused some people. These are calculated based on predictive models that operate separately from the fantasy score model. So they're not just averaged past data, and they're also not telling you what feeds into the main fantasy model. If you're looking for what does go into that main model, that would be found in the new Why High, Why Low tool. I built it to explain the ranking based on data. The question why so high, why so low has been the most frequent on Reddit. So I'm excited for you to get use from this new feature. Note that kickers are all treated as one tier here on your front page, in part because the fantasy point differences are very small among the top 8 kickers, and small changes during the week are unnecessarily distracting for most people. The most important thing is just to check if your kicker is in the top 8. Luckily, at least one kicker will usually be available in your league, since my situational approach to kicker ranking is unconventional. The similar historical match tool is based on an algorithm that searches for the most similar historical games going back 12 years. It considers various aspects of similarities, defensive and offensive qualities on both teams, which part of the season, what the betting lines were, and of course the fantasy model's projection. Aside from the 5 matches, you can see the fantasy results. The average score can supplement your decision-making. You could even investigate the past matchup to judge if it's really a valid comparison. The rest of season charts are obviously not projecting individual players, but it's the best all-numerical way I know of to guess the effective matchup. Since the projections are there for 17 weeks, you can try to scan strategically. For example, look for teams that look better in the first half of the season. Each positional model is based on a dozen different factors, so they account for multiple aspects of the opponent, as well as factors like weather. You should also note that past opponents are accounted for. So if an exceptionally high-scoring player, like Kelsey, played an opponent before, that will not distort how easy his opponent appears to be against tight ends. It's always compensated in my method. If you're still watching, you might be curious to see what's in the subscriptions. Here's a quick snapshot of what keeps this place otherwise ad-free. The standard subscription extends the weekly tables to 32 teams for DST and quarterback, and it opens up for kickers as well. The weekly tables also include numerical look-ahead forecasts, 1 or 2 weeks of extra projected scores. And now the table columns become sortable. This helps you more easily plan your future streaming. The long-range subscription makes available the rest of season charts for DST, kicker, and quarterback. This gives the fullest detailed view. Not everyone needs this, but people like me enjoy having it. The columns are sortable, including the season average. That indicates best holds. There is another feature in the long range, which is my survivor advice. As my articles describe it, I provide 3 survivor pathway picks each week, optimized for expected survival time. Finally, for people who want everything, the line betting tier advises how to bet on a weekly portfolio of spreads and over-unders. I'm excited about the new analysis behind this, but it's way too lengthy for this video. The tool lets you input the target amount you hope to bet for fun each week. It shows you how much should be unspent, and it suggests maybe a dozen bets in a portfolio to reduce risk. A further guidance is the timing of the bets, whether it's favorable to wager against the opening lines or near closing. Below all this is the full chart of expected team scores over the season. That wraps it up, everyone. In parting, I'd like to direct you to the articles section if you want to explore any more details about the website or the work I do. Good luck in 2023.